Mathew Barzal is the New York Islanders' most dynamic offensive player. Today, we'll discuss the impact of moving him back to center and how it affects the Islanders' offense going forward. All this and a lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. We've got a lot to discuss on today's show, including the impact of moving Mathew Barzal back to center. How does that affect the team? Where does that leave Cal Ritchie? And we'll continue our player-by-player scouting report on the Islanders draft class with Tomas Politin today on the show. We got to start with Mathew Barzal. Barzy only played, 30 games or so last year, which was a big issue for the Islanders. 20 points in 30 games, only 6 goals. Certainly was not at his usual productive self. And the Islanders need a healthy and productive Mathew Barzal on a team that, in spite of the positive moves made by Matthew Darche during the course of this offseason, is still most likely going to be in the bottom half of the league when it comes to goals scored. Barzal is the team's best skater. He can create time and space by the way he, both with his speed and with his edges, where he just is able to change direction on a dime and get defenders out of position, whether it's for himself or to set up a teammate. He doesn't have a bad shot, although even at this stage in his career, he remains a guy who looks to pass the puck more than he looks to shoot the puck. And over the last couple of seasons, we have seen Mathew Barzal moved to the wing for a good amount of time, most of the past 2 years, more or less in order to get him paired up with Bo Horvat to give the Islanders a top line. And let's face it, the duo of Horvat and Barzal did develop really good chemistry, and I think we saw both players over the last 2 seasons play better when they were paired on the same line than we did when the duo was separated. And this offseason, the Islanders have announced, and it's been essentially, it's a decision by Patrick Roy, the head coach, that Mathew Barzal will be moving back to center. And I'm kind of curious about this move. Number one, it separates Bo and Barzy. Now, again, I would not at all be surprised if they're reunited on the power play, which I think would be an effective move. But breaking up this duo is a question mark to me, mostly because when you look at the way the team is structured right now, the Islanders realistically have a lot of centers and maybe not as much depth on the wing as you would hope. Right now, you have Bo Horvat, you have Mathew Barzal, J.G. Pageau, Casey Cizikas, all playing center, and you're still on your NHL roster. You add Kyle McLean to the list of centers on this list, and then you add Cal Ritchie to the list, and all of a sudden you're 6 deep at center, where you only need 4 starting centers. Meanwhile, if the season started today, the Islanders' depth chart on the wing, you're probably looking at Jonathan Drouin and Kyle Palmieri as your top line wingers. Maybe Anders Lee gets in there. Maybe Anthony Duclair is a candidate. Maybe Simon Holmstrom is a candidate. But in filling out your top 2 lines, the 4 wingers most likely are Palmieri, Drouin, Lee, Holmstrom. And then you have Duclair, Siplikov, Shabanov, and Heineman as, the most likely guys to fill out those positions. I really see a lack of elite wingers on this roster right now. I think that the center position, being 6, possibly 7 deep, depending on who's playing there, you have a situation where you could probably trade away a player if you're so inclined, or, maybe it makes, in my mind, more sense to move Mathew Barzal back to the wing, at least for the first part of the season, because you have that chemistry with Bo Horvat, and you just don't have as much talent and depth on the wing. And I think the bigger issue is this. Is Mathew Barzal's skill set slightly more attuned to playing center? Yeah, in some ways, and in other ways, no. When he's playing center, the advantage is he can use that speed and the ability to change direction on a dime to go in both directions. You start off in the middle of the ice, and you have more options if you are at center and holding on to the puck. The advantage of putting him on the wing, though, has been that sometimes Mathew Barzal does a little too much, or tries to do a little too much when he gets the puck, skating around, changing direction, trying to get time and space created. If he holds the puck too long, the result too often is a turnover, and you lose possession, and you lose a scoring chance. So it limits him. The other thing is Barzal is average defensively. He's not irresponsible, but it's certainly not the strong point of his game. And I think having him play on the wing a little bit more encourages Barzal to shoot the puck, where in other situations at center, he is more inclined to pass. And while he is never going to be confused as a guy who shoots the puck a lot, I think shooting the puck more than he previously had, and we did see a move in that direction over the last couple of years when he was playing. I mean, he had 78 shots on goal last year in 30 games, which is, not bad. And he had 240 shots on goal the previous year in 80 games, and that was by far a career high. You go back to the previous season, he only had 139 shots on goal in 58 games, 161 in 73 games the year before. When he's playing wing, he is more inclined to shoot the puck, and I think that is also better for the Islanders long term. So the reasons I think you want him to stay on the wing are chemistry with Bo Horvat, limiting some of the instinct that he has to hold the puck too long, and getting him to shoot more. And then the fourth factor is the fact that the Islanders have much more depth at center than they do on the wing. Now, knowing Patrick Waugh and the way he handles it, I think Mathew Barzal is going to play both positions over the course of the season, whether he plays the wing on the power play or he plays somewhere else. It would not surprise me, depending on injuries, who's hot, who's struggling, that Barzy moves around. But in my mind, based on where the team is now, and that could change with any trade or injury or what have you, but it makes more sense to keep Mathew Barzal on the wing than it does to move him back to center, where, he has more defensive responsibility at center. You're supposed to be the first guy back. Yes, he can use his speed to catch up if he doesn't get the right start on a play, but I think there are better, more responsible centers on this team defensively, and just not enough offense on the wing right now overall. Will Patrick Waugh continue to say he's the 2C or the 1C? We'll see how that plays out once training camp gets underway. But the way the roster is configured right now, I still think it makes a little more sense to keep Barzy on the wing than it does to move him back to center. One player who is affected by this change is Cal Ritchie, who is one of the Islanders' top prospects. We'll talk about the impact moving Mathew Barzal back to center has on him and the overall offense of the team coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business need to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast, easy? Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. I've been in that spot when you need to hire like yesterday. The pressure is on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly where Indeed Sponsored Jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you could speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. So as I mentioned, Cal Ritchie is definitely a player who is affected by this move of Mathew Barzal back to center after playing predominantly on the wing for the last couple of years. And Cal Ritchie, before this draft, was considered the most NHL-ready Islanders prospect. He is 20. He will not turn 21 until January. He's already 6'2", about 185 pounds. He has done everything there is to do in juniors. He's not going back to Oshawa. Last year, 15 goals and 70 points in 47 games for the Generals, added 25 points, 9 goals in 21 playoff games. And he did have 7 regular season games with the Colorado Avalanche, who he started the season with, and he scored his first career NHL goal. And look, Ritchie is the kind of guy who I think will eventually replace Brock Nelson as the Islanders 2C. He can kill penalties. He's good in the face-off circle. Again, at least at the junior level. He'll probably have to work on that at the NHL level against bigger, stronger guys initially. But he has great hockey IQ, a good passer. responsible defensively and isn't afraid to use his size along the boards and even to get in front of the net, again, that will be more difficult. But at the NHL level than it was in juniors, but that's what the adjustment is for. But now with the Islanders having Horvat, Barzal, Pajot, Cizikas, McLean, and Ritchie on the depth chart at center, Ritchie may not have a spot. Now, the plan may be you start Cal Ritchie in Bridgeport, and then when you get to the trade deadline, if, as expected, guys like J.G. Pajot or Anders Lee are traded, that may change the way the lineup is going to look, and then maybe there's room at that point for Cal Ritchie. But right now, if you're looking at the Islanders lineup, barring injuries or somebody really, really having a very strong training camp, even though it appears to most scouts like Cal Ritchie is ready to play in the NHL right now, he will most likely start the season in Bridgeport. And again, that may not be the worst thing for this team, because as everydayers will recall, I said last week about Matthew Schaefer. It's not about this year with Cal Ritchie. It's not about this year so much for this Islanders team. If you do well this year and you surprise a lot of people, that's a bonus. But this is a retool. This is a transition year. This is a situation where Matthew Darche is starting to move some of the veterans out. He is bringing in some guys to keep the team competitive during the transition. But, moving on from a Noah Dobson, for example, tells you this team is in a retool. And if Cal Ritchie starts the year in Bridgeport, that may not be what was expected even a month ago that would happen, but it very well may be fine. And look, the AHL is that spot in between juniors and the NHL, with the NCAA obviously being in the mix in between. But he'll play against men in the AHL, not against teenagers like he played in juniors. And the opponents he'll face will be bigger, faster, more experienced, know the game better, and some of the moves that he made in juniors won't work as well against AHL competition, and they'll be even tougher to execute against NHL competition. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for the Islanders if Cal Ritchie starts the season in Bridgeport. But as of right now, if Mathew Barzal stays on the wing, Cal Ritchie probably is your 3C to start the season, with J.G. Pajot moving up to 2C. Now, again, Pajot is not a legitimate 2C in the NHL on a good team. Can he fill in there for a few games? Yeah, absolutely. But he's best suited to be that two-way third-line guy who can kill penalties, play responsible defensively, give you 10 to 15 goals, 45 or so points, and, do all those great things in the face-off circle that he has been known to do. So, Ritchie may not be ready yet to be the 2C. He may be ready to be the 3C. Again, that is something that could change as the season progresses. He gets more comfortable playing against NHL caliber opponents and adjusts to playing for Patrick Roy and all of those things that need to change. So, as of right now, it looks like there is no room on the Islanders NHL roster to start the season with Cal Ritchie in the lineup. And again, just like Matthew Schaefer, the one thing you do not want to see happen with Cal Ritchie or any of these young prospects, Isaiah George, Schaefer, Ritchie, when the time comes, Cole Iserman, they've got to play. You grow as a player, you develop as a player by playing, not by sitting in the press box. Yeah, you want to take one game off every 3 or 4 games because the physical toll is tougher and you can learn a little something by watching from the press box that way. Yes, fine. But a guy like Cal Ritchie has got to play if he's healthy. 65, 70 games this year combined between the NHL and the AHL. He cannot be that, 13th forward on this team. That stalls his development. So hopefully, if Mathew Barzal stays at center, Cal Ritchie probably remains or opens the season in Bridgeport, barring an injury to another Islanders center, a trade or a move, which may not happen until the trade deadline. Or if he plays so well in Bridgeport that there's just no way you can deny him coming up. And then, Matthew Darche will have some difficult decisions to make. But as of right now, and a lot can change between now and the season opener in October, but as of right now, it looks like Cal Ritchie, who as of a month and a half ago was probably the most NHL-ready prospect in the Islanders prospect pool, probably going to start the season in the AHL. All right, we've got a lot more to get to on today's show. We continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders 2025 draft class. Today, we focus on 4th-round pick Tomas Politin. We'll talk about him. Plus, for our Islanders birthday of the day, a player who was with the Islanders in the mid to late 2000 teens, a former Maple Leaf from Russia. We'll talk about him and his impact on the team, all that and more, next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to get started today. So we continue our player-by-player look at the draft class of 2025, which, again, most experts say the Islanders kind of hit out of the park this year. And in the 4th round, with the 106th overall pick, the Islanders added Tomas Politin, who is a 6'1", 200-pound, 18-year-old from Czechia, born in Prague. Last year, basically playing in Europe, had 15 games, 2 penalty minutes, was a -7, did not register a point when playing in the highest league there. But here's the thing that we really like about Tomas Politin. He is already a big guy, and he projects as a power forward in the NHL. Not going to score a lot of goals, probably going to be a 4th line, maybe at best a 3rd line player, but he's very good defensively, and boy, oh boy, is he good on the forecheck. And that forechecking ability, I think, 3-4 years down the road when he's getting ready to play in the NHL, that is where he's going to fit in. Now, he was the captain at the under-18 Worlds for Czechia this past year. So he's got leadership qualities, and, he could be a fan favorite and someone who Patrick Waugh absolutely loves. He could be like another Emil Heineman in that respect, where you put him and Heineman on the same line and just watch them go and buzz and be that new identity line or part of that new identity line. So he is not the kind of player who is going to light up the scoreboard offensively, although he probably does have the ability to put some pucks in the net. But he'll play solid defensively, he'll be physical, and he will buzz in the offensive zone on the forecheck, which is something that Matthew Darche and Patrick Waugh need this team to do better and more frequently. And hopefully, eventually, here is a player who can provide the team with that trait and that skill set in the lineup down the road. So again, 4th round draft picks in the NHL, 3-4 years is if they reach the NHL at all, it's not unusual to wait 3, 4, 5 years for these guys to be ready. We will keep an eye on him and how he progresses over the next few seasons. And it's always great now to have lots of really good prospects to talk about. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today is the 39th birthday of former Islanders winger Nikolai Kulemin, the native of Russia, a 2nd-round pick of the Maple Leafs back in 2006, made his NHL debut during the 2008-09 season for Toronto, joined the Islanders for the 2014-2015 campaign, and stayed on the island till 2017-2018, and then headed back to the KHL, where he last played in 2023-2024. Did play in 669 NHL games, scored 121 goals, 274 points, and 173 penalty minutes. Add 2 goals and 7 points in 25 playoff games, 18 of those with the Islanders, and 6 of the 7 points came as an Islander. Kulemin, always a solid two-way forward, a middle six guy who could give you good minutes, pump in some goals when called upon, but could be physical and responsible defensively. One of his better games as an Islander, a matinee at the Nassau Coliseum, January 19th, 2015. Islanders hosting the Flyers in a Metro Division matchup, and Ray Emery getting the start for Philadelphia. Jaro Halak in between the pipes for the Islanders, and in the first period, just a minute and a half into the game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Nikolai Kulemin sets up Michael Grabner to make it 1-0 Islanders. Johnny Boychuk also assisting. 6.5 minutes later, Kulemin scores himself his 10th goal of the year. Boychuk and Grabner with the assists. 2-0 Islanders after 1 period. In the second period, with Brock Nelson in the box for holding, Nikolai Kulemin scores an unassisted shorthanded goal to make it 3-0 in favor of the Islanders. And the Islanders go on to win the game by a score of 7-4. Nikolai Kulemin, he had 2 goals, 1 assist. He's a +3. He had 2 shots on goal. They both went in, and he was only on the ice for 10 minutes and 35 seconds. But Nikolai Kulemin had a big game here, helped the Islanders to a 7-4 win over the Flyers. A 25 save effort for Jaro Halak in this game. But Nikolai Kulemin is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason. We're bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with the local coverage you'll love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a comment, a question, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all off season long. It's always great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you anytime. Everydayers, we are back on Wednesday. We're on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday summer schedule right now. We will continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders draft, and we'll have some more important topics to discuss about this team. We will do a mailbag either Wednesday or Friday, so keep those mailbag questions coming. We've got a couple in the queue already. We will get to them when we get a few more, so always great to hear from you. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And, of course, let's go Islanders.